Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I'm joined here as always by the man who has never emailed Bruce Allen. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Haven't emailed Bruce Allen. Maybe probably shouldn't from now on.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Or
just
just in general.
yeah, just in general.
Mhm.
It's been a little draining, I gotta say. We've got obviously I don't know how it's already week 6 of the NFL season. We got college football in week I think 7 now. We've got WNBA finals. We've got MLB playoffs. We got basketball starting up. Hockey started up yesterday. I'm a little drained right now. I gotta say, a lot going on.
Yeah, it's one of those things where obviously it sucks to see my team get eliminated, but like the saving grace is always like, well, now I have time now. Like now I have a life again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's I don't know how I'm going to be able to manage all this.
Yeah, it's a lot. Also, about the it's already week 6 stuff, I totally get that it's a cliche. Like every week, say, "Can you believe it's week 6?" But I also like always want to say like, "Can you believe it's week 6?" So I don't know how to. I guess I just got to accept the cliche.
I don't know. It's just it feels like that we've been flying by this season already. I'm not ready for it to end. And every week's been exciting. There's been at least 2 awesome games it seems like every week.
Yeah, and it's always it's been a great start to this season, great third of the season, or a little under a third of the season. Let's talk about that wild Monday night game. Kyle, Ravens beating the Colts in overtime. What are your thoughts?
Um, I'll start with the positive. It just seems like this was another incredible Lamar Jackson game, and that's as simple as it was. He had
Mhm.
another awesome game where he dominated. He took over in the fourth quarter of this game and brought the Ravens back to win. He was what the first. I think I saw a whole bunch of numbers that like seemed like cherry pick numbers, but at the same time were impressive. Of like first quarterback with over 400 passing yards and over 80% completion percentage, and like the
85%. Yeah.
85%, and then also throwing in the 4 touchdowns there. That was the first time of that. And
Mhm.
I mean, all of it was just unreal. It just seemed like the Colts had no answer in the second half. And I got to say, for someone who I think has also been a little critical of Lamar at times, even though I've said he's still a top 6 quarterback in the NFL without a doubt, you
Mhm.
know, all the talk about can he win in the second half of games when his team's trailing, he's now won 3 of his games coming back in the fourth quarter with late game scores.
Yeah, and even that wild Ravens Raiders game. I mean, I think the only reason you really have ever come off as critical about Lamar is just because your podcast co-host is the biggest Lamar fan out there. It seems like.
Yeah. Maybe besides, what is it, Bill Polian?
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I should mention, meant to mention this at the beginning of the show. This is our regular time, 9 o'clock Eastern. Sorry about mixing up the times on you guys a couple times. This is where we typically will be doing the show. So this is when to expect us if you want to watch live. But yeah, I agree. I thought Lamar was incredible. I do also kind of feel like, I mean, I know that there was some fluky plays that went away that, went against you, but like Carson Wentz did have 400 yards on 35 attempts against this Ravens defense. Like that's not ideal either for Baltimore. So good job. You won. You got this comeback. But also I do think like the flip side is like you got to play better than this if you want to be a serious contender this season.
Yeah, I mean that was actually my follow-up question to this is like,
Mm-hmm.
is Baltimore's defense good enough to win them games? Because I said after like week 2, it feels like this is Lamar playing superhero or bust, and
Mm-hmm.
it still kind of feels that way. I mean, I know Calais Campbell made some huge plays in this game also to keep it one score and also give him the chance to come back, but at the same time, like you can't just keep like banking on these guys to make perfect plays. And I think it's really going to bite them at one of these points during the week. I mean, they got incredible stars on this team, but I think they got to put together a complete performance.
Yeah, but still, hey, you get the win. Good for Lamar. For the Colts, like it's crazy to say this because they're 1-4, but does this make you feel like they could be a playoff team in the weak AFC South? I mean, they did look, again, Carson Wentz looked good. The defense did not. But is there hope, or is this just no? This was it. Put the nail in the coffin. They're done.
I don't know because I just keep watching this team and it's like I think this team's good. I think this team's
Hmm.
decent.
Uh-huh.
But I actually made this reference about Nebraska college football earlier, and I still feel like it's appropriate for them too. Is I feel like if there's any fans of the show Community out there, I feel like we're watching the darkest timeline right now for the Indianapolis Colts. Like,
Uh-huh.
how many of these games are they going to lose? It just seems like they can't catch a break at the end of these games. And they also, they also have lost these games at the end of it too. So it's also partially on them. But there is some luck to winning football games, and I think that they're very unlucky right now. So maybe
Mhm.
this is just like going to be one of those seasons you write off and say, hey, that was a weird like 6-win season. Or maybe they
Mhm.
turn this around. I don't really know what to think of them just yet because they're not winning the games, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think I agree. And listen, they're 1-4. They're playing a 1-4 team this week. We'll get into it in a second, and they're 9.5-point favorites. So that kind of does go to tell you a little bit that like this is a better team than that. But still, good for Baltimore. Baltimore easily the most fun team to watch right now, right? Just every game is seemingly insane.
Yeah, I mean, just because I think the team's good but not great, and
Hmm.
also because their quarterback might be the most fun player in football. So
Uh-huh.
all of that leads to really exciting games.
I mean, they've had 4 game of the year candidates already in 5 weeks. They have the one against the Raiders that went to overtime, the game against the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, the Lions Ravens with the record-breaking field goal. Incredible stuff. All right. Let's get into the preview stuff. Kyle, I've tied it up. 17-17. You got to make your locks. Everyone knows lock of the weeks are that's a big thing. You missed yours and I made mine. That was the difference last week. So you're going to be going first here.
Yeah, unfortunate week for me. I mean, I think the issues with the Packers there at the end of that game,
Uh-huh.
it's all right though. We move on. I'm going to give you what I think is the tightest game of the week. It's also the closest line, so I think it's right. Vikings at Panthers.
Yeah, I had this one a little bit lower. I even considered locking it up. I don't want to do that just because Carolina's confused me. I guess is maybe the word. Darnold looked really good the first 3 weeks, but then gets a couple better competition, and he looked really not great. And I think he's kind of in between both of those two spots. Is how I would expect it to be. Minnesota's another team that's confused me. We've talked about how this is a playoff talent team that's getting held down due to a lot of coaching, specifically on the offensive side. I think their defense has been okay. It's been fine. I'm going to go Minnesota here. I just feel like there's enough talent here. This team should win, but it should be an interesting matchup as well with Carolina, who their coverage has kind of been, really good, despite the fact they've kind of had a rotating parts there in a lot of ways. I'm interested in seeing how this Vikings passing attack goes against Carolina. Should be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting because I don't, like you said, I don't know if I trust either of these teams, and I definitely don't
Hmm.
trust Minnesota's coaching staff to put them in the right position to win. Um, but I will say, going in Minnesota's favor is, as I'm looking for the right tab here, there it is. All right. Carolina's run defense is 22nd worst in the NFL, 4.4 yards per carry, and they're the second best pass defense in football at 5.5 yards per attempt. So I know it's very frustrating that we see this 50-50 run pass split,
Hmm.
but maybe this is the team you want to actually do that to. Dalvin Cook has practiced this week, so it seems like he's probably going to be play. We'll see what happens, but at the same time, like I said, it does seem like that this would be the right opportunity to run the ball. But yeah, I mean, I still just can't trust Minnesota. I can't trust this team to get it done. I really like the talent in this team, like you said. I think I had it as a borderline playoff team, if not a playoff team in the preseason. They just, I want to see them put it all together consistently, and they haven't done that.
Yeah, I think I agree. And again, Carolina's been a disappointment too since that 3-0 thing.
Yeah.
Like losing to Philadelphia, you want to be a playoff team, you gotta win that game. So these are kind of two teams that, in a weird way, kind of it almost feels like a mini playoff game. Of these are two teams that need this win here if they're going to stay alive.
Yeah, I completely agree. The thing is like couldn't you just see? Wouldn't it be very Minnesota if like Darnold has like 330 yards, a couple scores, and they lose this game off a missed field goal or something?
Yeah, I think especially that last part.
So I mean, that just feels like a very Minnesota thing. We're all on the Vikings, and then all of a sudden that's what happens. But I'm still picking the Vikings, even though I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, you could also argue it could be a very Carolina thing for like Kirk Cousins to go off for 400 yards and just dominate that way. So it's interesting. It could go either way. We'll see what happens. That's a good first pick, I think, by you because that definitely does feel like a coin flip game. I'll give you another one that I think feels like a coin flip game, even though the line isn't the next closest. I'm going to give you Raiders Broncos, largely because I don't know what to think of either of these two teams either.
Yeah, I had this one a little lower on my list earlier in the week. I bumped it up to third because I just didn't really know what to do with it at this point because obviously we saw everybody knows what happens with the Raiders and John Gruden. And
Mhm.
despite the, idea of like the locker room situation and how everyone's feeling about it and all that, I think the biggest thing is as far now, that John Gruden calls the plays, right, for offense.
I believe so, although I could be wrong about that. I haven't fact checked that.
Yeah, because I thought I saw he's the play caller, and I feel like
Mhm.
that's despite all the stuff about like all the locker room stuff that could be going on that we don't know about. We don't know how these people are. We don't know how they're rallying around the situation.
Mhm.
I just think not having your play caller out there and having to replace that in the middle of the week is extremely difficult. So
Mhm.
I think the Raiders are a better team, but I'm just going to pick the Broncos because it feels like the safer pick in this situation.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I had my pick as the Raiders, but this was my number one game. I didn't want to pick this one because
Yeah.
there's this weird thing where teams typically actually like win against the spread when they have interim head coach because typically there's like that added little bump of like, hey, we have a new guy, let's try to win for him. Our last guy sucked, let's get. But this is a little different because obviously Gruden didn't get fired. I mean, he resigned due to sort of off the field stuff as opposed to just getting fired outright because of being a bad football coach. Now, being a bad football coach might have factored in as well, but it's just a unique situation, and I'm kind of wondering: are we going to see the Raiders come out and just play flat, or could this be a rallying thing, similar to how I remember when Antonio Brown got cut? And there was that scenario that kind of became a rallying thing for the Raiders, and they were able to actually, I believe, beat the Denver Broncos in week 1 of that season.
Yeah. This is a good pick by you because I moved it up, but you moved it up to
Mhm.
2. That's probably the better choice because it's hard to tell. Because, like I said, if none of this happened, I would have picked the Raiders in this game. I feel confident that that offense can move the ball. I don't trust Denver's defense, which has struggled with big plays, but I just think I think the role of being a play caller is really underrated. How difficult it can be, and just
Mhm.
stringing together the right play call time and time again. And I think that's just going to be really hard to replace, and that's why I'm picking Denver.
Yeah, I think that that's totally fair. And again, I think part of the issue as well is like, okay, we've seen teams, kind of in back-to-back weeks figure out this Denver Broncos secondary. And are we going to see this again? But with all this turmoil, and again, Gruden, it was kind of a weird time for him to go as well, right? It's Monday night, so it's not like the worst time, but like it still is. Usually it's like the Monday morning, and you at least have that day. So it's a little bit closer. You have to make your decisions a little bit quicker. I think if Gruden is still the head coach of the Raiders, I would bet on the Raiders. It's just
Yeah.
it's that whole X factor, which is why it's this complete coin flip game, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think the one thing for the Raiders that if they win this game, I think like the defense has to shut down the Williams and Gordon combination. They have, the defensive line's been good, so maybe they can do that. But I also think like if you believe the Raiders can win this game, I think you're banking on Henry Ruggs to hit a couple home runs, and I think he's capable of hitting home runs against this defense. So I think that they can win this game, and I think it involves something like Ruggs having like a 4 catch, 150-yard, 2 score kind of game, like one of those
Mhm.
Deshaun Jackson specials. Like if he can do something like that, the Raiders can definitely win this game. I just think it's a tough task. Now, if the Broncos lose this game, I I mean, I'm done on this team, right? We're done if they lose this.
Oh yeah, just tank, start trading pieces. You're done.
Yeah. I mean, they're not making the playoffs if they lose this game at home, given the circumstances around Las Vegas.
Yeah. Although the other thing we have to bring up is like, okay, this Raiders defense actually kind of matched up pretty well against this Broncos offense. I feel like I kind of do feel like it's advantage, and like that's kind of the weird thing is I kind of feel like okay, Raiders offense against Broncos defense, I kind of go advantage Raiders, and Raiders defense against Broncos offense, I kind of go advantage Raiders. So it's kind of weird how we're both like I don't know who's going to win, but it also makes sense.
Yeah, and like I said, I would have picked the Raiders. It's just it's
Hmm.
it's a lot to deal with. There's a lot going on in that locker room. You know, there's it's just too much. It's too hard to tell, and I just feel like it's a safe pick, so I'll just go with that.
Yeah. Should mention. I guess I'll ask you. We talked about this a little bit pre-show. Do you want to talk about the John Gruden firing at all, or do you want to just move on to the next game? Or not
We
firing,
could
resigning.
we could touch on it a little bit. It's
Mhm.
unfortunate to hear about the things that came out. Now, I don't know the circumstances of why it came out, how it came out, how this stuff is leaked, or anything like
I,
that.
I can explain that if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
So what happened was it's during the investigation under the Washington football team. they went through all of Bruce Allen's emails to research that and figure out what happened. During that, they found John Gruden's emails and decided to release that. Now, the why of it is the question, but that's how they found it and where it came from.
Yeah, and like I said, it's unfortunate that was to happen for the Raiders. At the end of the day, like, it sucks for the Raiders. It sucks for those players. It sucks that they have to deal with it. Looking at a lot of those players, Carl Nassib and everything he went through this offseason, having to hear about this kind of stuff coming out. I don't feel bad for Gruden in this situation. Obviously, your choices, have consequences. And unfortunately, even though he thought that was a private conversation, your choices do have consequences. So I feel that way. I just feel bad for the players that they have to deal with that now. It kind of feels like we might have to write off the season for them when there was so much positivity from this team.
Yeah. And it's also like, I mean, I kind of thought, I didn't say this when I made my video, but it's kind of like reading those things. It's like, yeah, that's totally the thing in 2021 that you're losing your job over. Like regardless of whether you think it's right or wrong, that's what you're losing your job over. But I'm in the wrong category. I think you should not be saying that stuff, just to be clear. And so, I think it's just kind of obvious that like he was going to lose, especially when it's like, how is the players in the locker room going to respond to someone who's going around saying that kind of stuff, especially as early as, as soon as 3 years ago. So, it is what it is. There's this comment said, definitely don't feel bad for his exit, but we all make mistakes. Hope he bounces back. Sure. I would love for that to happen. He also is 58. I don't know how many people make career lifelong decisions at, in their mid 50s, but hopefully it works out.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing from this was, and I guess I'll ask you your thoughts on it. Your team had the big stance on this after the fact. I mean, do you want to comment on that? How did you feel about that situation?
Sure. I mean, I thought it made me laugh. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, this is not what this is stupid. Like, I mean, in fairness, the hypocritical argument is always one that I just think is dumb because, like, basically everyone is a hypocrite. Like, we all don't, like, that's not how people think. They don't think like, okay, should we remove John Gruden for the Ring of Honor? Well, we still have Warren Sapp here, so should we? How do we factor that? That's not how people view it. They don't view, okay, what's our line for that's so bad that you're out of the Ring of Honor, and then view it that way. They just say, should we remove John Gruden from the Ring of Honor? And when the Warren Sapp thing happened, they probably viewed it differently than John Gruden, just like the Antonio Brown stuff. So I think it's a weird argument. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. But also, it's like you have to know that argument's going to be used against you. Like just keep your mouth shut. If you want to remove him, remove him. You don't tweet about it.
Yeah. So very interesting situation on Lyron. I guess, do you want to answer this question? Then we can move on real quick on the Raiders.
The Brody, do you think the Raiders will be good considering the circumstances within the next 3 years? I actually think it's possible. Like, you won't have to deal with a Gruden guy in the first round, so maybe that could actually be a benefit because Mayock's done a great job of drafting these guys in the late rounds, right? I mean, it's the first round that's given him trouble. How much of that is Mayock? How much of that is Gruden? I don't know. But if you can start hitting on these first round picks, they'd be the best drafting team in football. The problem is they've been like the worst drafting team in the first round.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you look at just the framework of this team, you have decent players in your secondary that are young. You have a nice defensive end you can build around. You have a top 9 to 12 quarterback, I guess, depending on where you rank them. You have a top 3 tight end in football, and you have 2 really good young receivers too. And you have a decent running back. So there's definitely pieces on here that this team can turn it around and be pretty good. And they still might be able to figure it out and still sneak into the playoffs this year. I think it's going to be incredibly difficult given the circumstances, but there's talent on this roster. So
yeah, and a coach is going to want to go there, and because for 2 reasons. One, Derek Carr. That's a bigger selling point than a lot of these new places they're going to be. And 2, it's just the Raiders. Like, there's something about being a Raider. Like, it's just one of those historic franchises. So like I tweeted out, like, imagine Joe Brady with Derek Carr. That would be fun. So I think there's definitely reason for optimism. And the Gruden thing wasn't working out even without this email stuff. It was already kind of on its way out. We all kind of felt like this is probably Gruden's last year anyway. So I think it's a reason for optimism in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd still feel good about this team going forward. So, all right. Well, we can move on from
Yeah.
that. I'll go on to the next game. We spent a lot of time on that one. I will
Mhm.
give you maybe the marquee game of the week, probably the marquee game of the week, Cardinals at Browns.
Cardinals at Browns. Yeah, I think there's two that are very up there, and we'll talk about the other one in a second. Yeah, this is one that
Dolphins,
was.
Jaguars.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, the London game. Cardinals at Browns. It should be an interesting one. I feel like I've picked against the Cardinals a couple times. I am going to pick against them here. I'm going to go Cleveland, but this does again. There's really, actually, I think 5 games that I'm like, geez, I don't want to pick. Maybe even more. There's a lot of good games now. Not all of them I think are good, but there's a lot of like interesting games. I think the one thing that I keep going back to though is kind of the one issue the Cardinals have had so far this season is I don't love how they've tried to stop the run. I don't love how they've ran the football. That's something that Cleveland should be able to take advantage of a lot. Like, right, play their cover 2 zone, which in fairness, we saw the Cardinals sort of blow apart the Rams who like to play 2 safety deep, but still, in theory, that should make it easier to stop the deep passing attack and then run the ball a lot. That's how you can make it happen. So I'm going to go Cleveland, but this is again a game that could go either way.
Yeah, I think we were on the right side of that Browns Chargers game. I don't want to take anything away from Herbert and what he did in that game, but like the 540 yards or whatever it was and 42 points,
Hmm.
like I definitely think the Browns were the better team in that game. Just Herbert was incredible. So,
Hmm.
I mean, I kind of feel the same way about this one too. So the Chargers were the worst rush defense in football. Guess who second worst is? The Arizona Cardinals are the second worst rush defense in football. So going back to back against the 2 worst running defenses, I feel like it's going to be the same blueprint. You got those 2 running backs who are top 10 in the league. You've got Baker, doing, Baker kind of game manager plus stuff. You maybe get a couple of big plays in the passing game, and I still feel like that this Browns team can cover. They didn't play well last week, but that's because the Chargers are very good. I still feel like they're going to be able to cover. And then obviously the elephant in the room is what's the health of Kyler Murray? He's questionable for this game, and it sounds like even if he's going to play, he's not 100%. So I think, and this is also kind of your thing where the Browns at 3-3 just feels wrong based on how they played this year. So
Hmm.
4-2 just makes sense. So I'd pick the Browns too.
Yeah, and you could also argue that the Cardinals at 5-0 feels a little bit off, even though they have been very, very good themselves. The Kyler thing is interesting, especially if Kyler is playing. We've seen him. What's interesting is that he hasn't really had any throws these past couple of weeks. And I'm like, what are you doing? That was a dumb decision. But he's certainly still saying 50-50 ball, I'm going to take that chance. And against Cleveland, that might not work as well as it has against some other teams. And I could see that coming back to bite him. And if you just turn the ball over maybe one more time than Cleveland, that could be all it takes in a game this competitive. Should be fun for Arizona. Again, they blew out the Rams, who we all thought would beat them. So I'm not doubting this team. There's definitely a way that they can win, especially if they can do a lot of that downfield stuff that Kingsbury did a great job of scheming up against the Rams. The blueprint is already there. They invented it.
Yeah. I, I think that, I mean, they're obviously undefeated for a reason. So I think they completely have a shot in this game. I think I'm just going to lean slightly towards the Browns here. And I just think that the way they run the ball and what they can do against this defense, I'm giving that the advantage.
Yeah, I also should mention, just to be clear, there is a difference between cover 2 and quarters coverage, and that's what these two teams do. But so it may be a slight advantage to Cleveland, but still, the idea is the same. Yeah, ready to move on, or any final thoughts for this one?
We can move on.
Okay. I'm going to give you one. I'm going to give you the thumbnail game. I'm going to give you Chargers at Ravens in Baltimore. Ravens favored here by 3, although they're at home. So, it would be probably even if this was at a neutral site. Where are you going here?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Chargers. I haven't loved what the Ravens defense has done lately, and I think that the Chargers might be able to attack that. I think that the Ravens can kind of do what the Browns were doing last week, but that being said, they just don't have the running backs that Cleveland does, and I don't know how effectively it's going to work. And honestly, I just don't know if the Ravens can keep getting away with these close wins and pulling these out of their butt at the end. So I think the Chargers are just going to win this. I feel like the Chargers are the better team right now.
Yeah, this again, it feels like one where both offenses should probably have success. Like on paper, you think about, on one hand, it's like, man, that quarters coverage defense with the Chargers going up against Lamar Jackson in that running game. I don't care. They could have me back there. They're still going to get their rushing yards. Maybe not me, but an NFL running back, they're still going to get their running yards because of how good Lamar is. So that's the first part. But the other part is like, I've talked about this. The way to beat Lamar is to let him beat you with his legs, which sounds counterintuitive, but don't take away what the Ravens are best at, because you're not going to take that away anyways. Take away what the Ravens are their worst at and force them to run, constantly and just eat those big plays, because eventually you will get a stop. That's how we've seen. Like, that's how, I think about New England and how they beat Baltimore last year. That's the move. It's just, a lot of teams don't naturally think that way.
Yeah. I definitely think it's going to be an interesting matchup, but we'll see if this Ravens team. I still feel like, I don't know. It feels like I'm taking away from them, but I really I feel like they're still a tier below some of the elite teams in the AFC right now.
I think so as well. I think it's totally like, listen, their offense has been awesome. Lamar is awesome. And the receiving core has actually played really well, which this is kind of what I've talked about, is the issue with the Ravens has constantly been no receivers. They have receivers now. Sammy Watkins has done a lot for this team. The addition of that, this looks like a different offense. This defense is still a part of football, as much as, we like to pretend it isn't. So that's the issue. And for the Chargers, I mean, granted, they just gave up 40 plus points against, you read those stats against Cleveland. So there is still some issues with the Chargers as well and their defense, but I still think that it's fair to say the Chargers, especially when, Herbert's also playing at an awesome level right now.
Is Los Angeles in a Super Bowl contender mode for you?
I don't think so. I just think they're too Justin Herbert dependent. I think I'm not willing to say that just yet.
Yeah. I feel like I want to like this defense more than what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like I should like this defense more, but then I also look at it and it's like, they don't really get stops. They just have nice players.
Yeah, because I think about like the team. The teams in the AFC. It's like, are they better than the Bills? Are they better than the Browns? I just don't think so. Like, are they better than the Chiefs? They did beat the Chiefs, but maybe the Chiefs aren't as good as we thought they were. So that's kind of the entry there. I think I need to see more out of their defense before I'm willing to say that they are Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. But I mean, if they win this game, that's an impressive winning streak over the teams they beat.
Yeah, but they're also, they're in the conversation. There may be just like one tier. Like, to me, a Super Bowl contender, there's only like 4 or 5 teams every year. I think they're just one tier below that.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right. Well, anything else you want to add to this game?
No.
All right. Well, we can move on. We've knocked off my top 4 games on the list.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you my number 6 game instead of my number 5 game.
Okay.
Because I don't want to pick against my own team. So I'm giving you Cowboys at Patriots.
Wow. Okay. So you're, I think, a little bit high. So I still had 3 games above this one that not checked. So I'm a little bit more confident in your Dallas Cowboys than your New England Patriots. Well, Dak Prescott's your guy. You're not a Cowboys fan, but I don't know. I mean, how are the Patriots going to stop this Cowboys offense? No one has been able to do it so far. It's a great offense where they can literally, they're awesome at everything. So, like, what are you going to do to stop it? No matter what you try to stop, they can just attack where you're not. It's a really well-built offense. They did a great job there. The Cowboys defense is all of a sudden playing really well. I think you touched on it and you kind of brought this to my attention. And I agree with you a lot more about the Trayvon Diggs stuff, about how he keeps getting interceptions, but he also keeps getting burnt on these plays. So there's the question mark there. But still, Cowboys defense is covering well. I thought Mac Jones has done a solid job. But to me, this does feel like, I did my analytical power rankings and the Cowboys were number 1 right now through 5 weeks. And I kind of think that's fair through 5 weeks. Again, how well will that carry over through the rest of the season? Well, that remains to be seen. But I think the Cowboys have done really well. I have Dallas in this. And you know what? I wasn't going to do it, but I've talked myself into it right now. I'm locking up the America's team, the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, boy. Well, so I guess, a couple years ago, we played the Cowboys and looked really good, locking down that offense. That being said, Stephon Gilmore was on the team, which added a lot to it, because he was able to basically shut down Amari Cooper. Now, they don't just have Amari Cooper. They have him and, CeeDee Lamb, too. So I think that becomes a really tough matchup for New England. My guess, I mean, I don't know. Like you said, there's just so much that they do well. My guess is New England tries to load up the box and then hopes J.C. Jackson and Jalen Mills can win some of the one-on-one battles. That being said, I don't know if they can win those one-on-one battles. So I don't,
Mhm.
I don't really know how they're going to approach this offense. That'll be the interesting aspect of this. I don't know. I don't think that we can keep up with Dallas right now. The offense isn't really playing up, like syncing up very well. I think that Josh McDaniels doesn't want to open it up, and I don't really know why, because when he has, Mac has looked pretty good. Late in that Tampa game, I thought he played pretty well because they were not afraid to throw the football. And then late in this Texans game, when they're down 22-9, I thought the offense played pretty well because he wasn't afraid to throw the football. I don't like, how important Brandon Bolden is to this passing game. I don't like how important that they, how much they prioritize getting all of these guys their touches in the backfield. I think Mac Jones has come from an offense that's spread out and lets him use playmakers. I want to see more of that from this team, because what's the point of investing in all these guys at tight end and wide receiver if you're afraid to use them downfield? So I'm interested to see that from the offensive side of the ball, and I just think we're going to struggle covering. So I would go Cowboys. I wouldn't lock it up just because New England at home kind of makes these games interesting, but I do think the Cowboys are a way better team right now.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is, I mean, the most the Patriots have scored this season is 25. They need to, can you really exceed the Cowboys, scoring less than 30? It's hard to imagine that. Maybe if this was the, I don't know, one of the, take your pick, the 2003 Patriots defense, maybe they would. I just don't know. And you talk
Go
about,
for it.
okay, yeah, you talk about, okay, they're maybe, stack the box, trust your corners can cover it. But it's like, okay, so what? Just Jonathan Jones is going to be on Michael Gallup? I don't know if I love that matchup. Like this just seems like, again, it's what Dallas does to you. They kind of are, to me, the Cowboys. I'm a believer in the Dallas Cowboys at this point. It's kind of funny because I think we all naturally assume the Cowboys are going to suck, and all Cowboys fans always say they're going to be awesome, and we just kind of tune that out. But this year they might actually like be legit.
Be
I think that
awesome.
their offense is really good, and I think the way you beat the Cowboys is by scoring 30 plus, which I just don't know if this Patriots team can do.
No, I don't know if they can right now either, given the play call, because it just seems like I said, it seems like that they're willing to go down points in order to win games. Now, New England has done a good job defending the run this season. They're, let's see here, sixth in opponent rush yards per attempt. So maybe they're able to figure this out. But yeah, I mean, I think right now it's hard to pick against this Dallas offense unless they're playing one of the elite teams in the league.
Yeah, I think so as well. But again, we'll see. Interesting test. We'll see if Bill Belichick has any kind of tricks up his sleeve. But I think, as you like to say, it's like he's not playing, so there's only so
Yeah.
much you can do. Let's move on. Let's go to another game. I'm going to give you this one only because it's going to be ugly and gross. It's the London game. Dolphins at Jaguars. I believe it or not, I had JAX next to the name in my notes. I was ready to pick the Jaguars. Went off of that. They decided to go with the Dolphins. Dolphins are 3.5-point favorites. Who do you have taking the long flight back home happy?
I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm gonna take Jacksonville.
All
Um,
right.
I'm sorry, Luke Brown. I know you're in the chat somewhere. Um, this this Miami defense is underrated, and it's not underrated for good reasons. It's underrated for how bad this defense actually is. They are currently 22nd in opponent yards per play. They are dead last in third down conversion percentage. They are, I'm going right through here, 20th in opponent rush yards per attempt. They are 23rd in opponent pass yards per attempt. They don't get pressure on the quarterback. They're worst with a 3% quarterback hurry percentage in the league right now. I mean, there's just the one thing this team does is get takeaways. And that's the one thing you'd be banking on for them to win this game, I feel like, is getting takeaways, because they're also dead last in a lot of offensive categories, or at least second to last there with the Bears, who basically had one game off where they were, trying to work Justin Fields into a game. So, I mean, this isn't a good football team. I think these are the two worst teams in the league right now, and I think Jacksonville can win this game. I've seen some promising stuff out of their offense, and I think James Robinson's going to be able to get some yards in this game. So I know Tua might play. I still just feel like Jacksonville's going to win it. So it's crazy to say, but I think Jacksonville snaps the streak.
Wow, Kyle, I like this take again. I consider this for one thing. I think you're talking about the Dolphins. Also, I like how you refer to it as underrated, but in a bad way, as opposed to just saying overrated. I think that's a fun way to say that about I would say like about the Dolphins defense. Like an element has to come in of they played Buffalo and Tampa Bay, who both blew the brakes off of them. Like the other 3 weeks, they have looked solid, and also when your offense is 3-and-outing every time makes your defense look worse. I think
Mhm.
that's like I looked at points per drive, they're actually second worst in that category, and that's my favorite category to use. But I think that there's a little bit of stuff there. But it's also fair to say, like, hey, last year they were dominating everybody, so it is concerning.
Yeah, and it's not, I think the other thing too with the defense is it's like, yeah, they're getting crappy situations from their offense, which hurts it. But on a
Hmm.
per play basis, this defense is also getting beat. So I think that's a huge
Hmm.
problem too. And then not to mention you have the aspect of Xavier Howard in practice, Byron Jones is limited. And I mean, that's your calling card for this team is you have two elite corners. If you have zero elite corners, I don't feel good about this team at all. So yeah, I mean, I I'm just going to take Jacksonville. I feel like that they're healthier, and right now, sadly enough, I think they're better.
All right. Well, I like the take. I respect the take for sure. My other question, though, is that I think a big part of why your argument is making a lot of sense is because we haven't talked anything about Jacksonville. So I think that's kind of what's making it work a little better. Like the Jaguars, it's basically just like, well, they have James Robinson. So that's what they have going for them. I mean, even
Yeah,
like Lawrence, it's like, okay, Lawrence has shown that he can, play well. He's actually, improved significantly since, the start of this season. The flip side, though, with Lawrence is also kind of like, okay, well, couldn't you see kind of a new scheme that he's not used to? Like, I don't think he's ever gone up against something like a Brian Flores scheme. Couldn't you see that giving him trouble and him turning the ball over a couple
yeah, um, yeah. I mean, I
times?
don't really feel good about either of these teams. Like I
Right.
said, I think these are two worst teams in the league, and maybe
Wow.
that. Yeah, I mean, even
Worse
then,
than the Jets?
probably like
Wow, that's tough.
at least the Jets have looked competent in the game.
What
I
about
guess
the
you could say
Lions?
I don't know, man. Like,
Oh my
I don't,
god.
there's just a lot I see about this team that I don't love, and I don't love either of these teams. So, uh, yeah, I mean, like I said, I think that this is I think Flores is obviously a major coaching advantage right now, where you know Urban Meyer's game plan has basically become a historically great offense that can get 250 rushing yards a game. So, um, you know, I think that I just think it's going to be really hard to pull this off for either team. I don't love either of these teams, but if I had to pick one with a gun in my head, I think I'd take the Jaguars right now.
Yeah, it should be glorious. People are complaining about this. I love the Sunday morning game to being like just a complete like dumpster fire. I think that I don't know why, but it's the perfect. I don't want that game to be good. I don't need that game to be good. Let's be honest. A lot of people are waking up at halftime anyways. Let it be a complete mess. Let it be something to enjoy with low stakes before we get into the good football during that's my hot take.
This is how you perform. This is how you act in this game. Okay, you sit down for a little bit, you watch it as you're a little drowsy. Right
Hmm.
before halftime, you get up, you go get a coffee and bagel. You have your
Hmm.
coffee and bagel through half. You maybe take your dog or if you take your dog for a walk.
Yeah,
You know,
were you about to
you
say dog
basically
or
go,
cat for a walk?
I was about to say I don't know what I was going to say for people who don't have dogs. I just feel sorry for you, I guess.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, you take your dog for a walk. You stick to your morning routine, then get back and check out in the fourth quarter. If it's close, obviously you tune back in. Otherwise, you can just catch the highlights.
Yeah, all right. Exactly. Let's move on from this game. Please God, let's move on from it.
I have another
Kyle.
hour on this game if you want.
Yeah, actually tomorrow we're gonna have a bonus episode of the On the Sideline podcast just about Dolphins Jaguars. Uh we should live stream that game.
Oh God, I won't even show up for our own live stream.
Exactly.
I got to get up in the middle to go get coffee.
Exactly. The whole point of the game is that you don't watch the whole thing. That's the whole point of the thing. Let's move on. Let's go to. So you're giving me a game here.
All right, I'm gonna give you. Let's go Seahawks Steelers. The Geno Smith game back in going to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh showed a little bit of something last week. Can they keep this sustained?
Isn't this the Sunday night game as well?
I think so. Yeah,
Incredible stuff.
they
Yeah.
had the option to flex it and they didn't.
Well, I mean, you can't go away from this one. I mean, this is a great game. Clearly, we're picking it in the top half of the show. Shows how competitive this one is. Yeah, this is another one where I'm like I really have to pick the Steelers here. I'm gonna pick the Steelers. I mean, the whole point of the Seahawks is that they're built around like three players, and then one of the most important, their quarterback, is hurt. I just can't, in good conscience, pick Geno Smith to win a football game, especially on a team that doesn't have a ton of talent. But granted, I'm picking Ben Roethlisberger in 2021 to win a football game, so it's not working well either. But yeah, this is a gross game.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not looking forward to watching this Sunday night or recapping it Sunday night. But I do think Pittsburgh should win this game, and this is another one where it's like, I mean, similar to the Broncos, if the Steelers find a way to lose this one, I'm just, I'm out. I'm basically saying this team has no chance. They still might not have a chance, but at least Pittsburgh fans still think that they're competitive enough. If they lose this game, I give them no shot.
Yeah, I mean, I gave up like after like week, I think like 3. So I've been out for a minute now. Although again, they beat Denver last week. There's a little bit of signs of life there. We'll see. I could even see like Big Ben having like a decent day against the Seahawks defense, and like Steelers fans really talking themselves in to Big Ben being back. But granted, I guess what would Roethlisberger have to do at this point for me to like change? I'm thinking like, what would he have to do for me to change my mind about him actually being good? Like, I don't know like how many yards he would have to throw in this game for me to be like, oh, I guess he is back.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he could look awesome against the Seattle secondary, so
Hmm.
I'm not putting it past him.
Yeah, well, Luke Brown said the best. I'm not watching this game. All right.
All
Well,
right.
yeah, I think Luke Brown. I think there's many people in that camp. Uh, what's there to look for if you're a Seahawks fan or a Steelers fan? Like, what's there to hope for? Are you still hoping that your team makes the playoffs this year? Perhaps maybe for the Seahawks, you're just saying like, hey, if we can just go 3-3, maybe Russ can come in at the end of the season and win out. That I guess.
I would say so. I think you got to see if you can tread water, I guess. You still have really good receivers, so maybe that helps. You still have a
Hmm.
decent running back. So maybe you just kind of bank on that helping them out, and then they make they can make the playoffs at like a 10-7, 9-8 situation. I think that's the only thing you could look forward to if you're Seattle.
Yeah, I think the other interesting thing I'm interested in is this Pittsburgh secondary that seemingly is a very up and down. Where one week it'll look good, one week it doesn't. What kind of Pittsburgh secondary do we see? I don't know if anyone else is interested in that but me. But we'll that's something
They
that
can't look
I'm
bad against
interested in.
Geno Smith, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Let's move on. I'm gonna give you a game. So we're kind of through the I think the ones where there's a real question mark as to who do we think is gonna win. So instead, I'm gonna give you a team that we're just looking at where's the upset potential. How about a divisional matchup? Packers at Bears. Where are you going?
Um, do I want to lock this? I'm not going to lock it. I saw it a lot lower earlier in the week. I saw it at 3. Now it's 4.5. So I won't lock it. I mean, listen, the Bears have looked better. They've looked competent, but like, are you kidding me with this? Like, Aaron Rodgers owns these guys, owns them.
Hmm.
He's gonna crush them. Aaron Rodgers loves nothing more in life than hosting Jeopardy and beating the Bears. Like if he could play 2 games a year against the Bears and host Jeopardy full time, he'd probably do it. So
Hmm.
I got the Packers winning this one big. I think that they're going to be able to do it, and I think Aaron Rodgers is going to torch him.
Yeah, I mean, this is why when he leaves next year, he has to go to like the Lions, right? So he can still play the Bears, or he'll look at who's scheduled to play the Bears next year, so he at least gets one Bears matchup. Uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, but also the flip side is, and I think it's a good non-lock because the 4.5 points, I consider locking it as well, or having that set up as my lock of the week. But the reason why I decided not to go there is it's like, okay, what does Rodgers love more than beating the Bears? Coming back against the Bears, right? So it seems like the Bears will be up like 20-0, and then Rodgers will come back and win 21-20.
That's very possible. Yeah, I mean, I
Hmm.
would believe it. So I just think he wants to eat this team up. So I think he's going to win this one. Bears, they are doing some nice things. Maybe they could take away some of the deep balls out of Green Bay. That front seven is ridiculous. So maybe it shuts down Aaron Jones a little bit and turns Green Bay one dimensional, and that helps. That being said, I just don't think they can attack, I don't know if Jair Alexander is going to be back for this game, but even then, I don't trust the Bears passing game to attack them.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I mean, if Jair isn't back, then you have that should help open things up. Like, who's going to go on Allen Robinson? It's probably going to, again, be the rookie Stokes. So that could be a matchup that Fields could try to exploit. Again, does Fields try to run the ball a lot? That's probably the more interesting matchup, I think, is this Bears, offense going up against the Packers defense. I do kind of agree. I think the Packers, like, they're not one of those offenses similar to Dallas, where it's like, okay, we all talk about Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Aaron Jones in this running game is really good as well. They can run the ball constantly. So it's difficult to beat either way. So in terms of, like, this is one of those things where the line actually probably makes sense, because this does seem like the thing that the Bears would randomly keep the game close. But, like, clearly I think the Packers are most likely going to win.
Yeah, I mean, I just think they're a better team. So yeah, I'm taking Green Bay. I'm not betting against Aaron Rodgers in this matchup.
Right. Let's move on. Where do you want to go?
All right. So a little bit of separation here towards the end of the games now. I will give you Bengals at Lions.
Okay, Bengals at Lions. This one was the one in my notes I had as my lock of the week. I decided not to go there, but we'll still be picking the Cincinnati Bengals to defeat the Detroit Lions. Again, I think the Lions are not good at football. I think that they're fun, but I think that the Cincinnati offense should be able to completely light up this Lions defense. I don't know what they do defensively to stop them. And the Bengals defense has actually played solid. So Cincinnati, you want to be a championship contender or at least a playoff contender? Hey, here's a team that's not that good. Blow them out. Win by 10.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, because I think that they are the better team, and I think they can win this game very easily. I guess, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess the one thing is, like, can the Lions' stupid offense that randomly moves the ball at times, can they keep this game interesting enough? They managed to keep a bunch of games that they should have been blown out in interesting. So maybe that's enough to do it. DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson had those, like, sneaky good games. Jared Goff has a couple nice throws, and that's that. It just doesn't feel like, with Quintez Cephas now out too, I just don't see it with this team.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing, though, is that, again, like I say, they're simultaneously the luckiest and unluckiest team in football. There probably will be like 4 fumble recoveries for touchdowns for the Lions, so that way they only lose by 1.
Yeah. Honestly, this feels like 3.5. So that means the Bengals win this one 24-21 in the most, like, agonizing way possible.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, how about Cincinnati? We're talking about another team losing in agonizing fashion. Good for them. Look at them moving up in the world.
Yeah, no kidding. So, I don't know. I'll tune in a little bit on this one. We'll see. I mean, the thing is like you said, if the Bengals want to be taken seriously, they got to jump this team a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that Chase should have a big game in this one. I think, all of their receivers can have big games in this one. They should be able to go after the secondary.
Yeah, I think so as well. Let's move on. I'm going to give you a game. I'm going to give you Bills at Titans. Where are you going here?
I'm going to pick the Bills. I almost locked this one up too, but I am just kind of tepid on doing it simply because one team can control the clock with Derrick Henry. He's maybe the best offensive player in football. Once again, the guy's a machine, the way he can just take all these carries and still be amazing. And the other part about this is it's kind of a weird narrative, but I think it's kind of real at the same time. The Bills basically just played their regular season version of the Super Bowl. A lot of it was, can this team keep up with KC? Had they closed the gap? All that kind of stuff. Can they do that and then on a short week go and dominate the Titans? I think this team's good enough to dominate everybody. I just think it's really hard to go from a game like that Kansas City game where you needed to dominate. You needed to look like you closed the gap. They came out and dominated. They looked energized. And then to go back and play this Tennessee team. So I'm taking the Bills. I'm not going to lock it up because of just all the circumstances behind it.
Yeah, and plus, 5.5 points, like, it's kind of just tough when the Titans do run the ball a lot. Like, will the Bills be able to, could limit possessions, give them less time. Bills' offense looked awesome last week. They did play one of the worst defenses in football. So that is another aspect here. The Titans' defense, we all know, is elite and one of the best defenses ever invented. So they got that going for them. However, I also am interested about this Titans their offense going up against the Bills defense. Bills defense looked really good. This is also kind of, I don't want to say the first real test, but it's a unique test, right? Because many teams do not have Derrick Henry. In fact, only one does. So that's kind of a unique situation here. It'll be fun to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I mean, if the Bills defense, I was surprised what they did against Kansas City. If they managed to shut down the Titans and the Chiefs offense back-to-back weeks, I will be very impressed. I mean, they did an awesome job in that last game. If they can do it again, I'll be. They better just book their tickets to the Super Bowl at that point, because they're going against some of the best offenses in the AFC and shutting them down. And this offense can still move the ball. So we'll see what happens. I think that this is a really good team. Obviously, I picked them to win the Super Bowl, so I still believe that they're awesome, and it'll be a fun game.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, the Bills, I mean, you picked them to win the Super Bowl, and I think they've surprised you with how well they've looked these past few weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they're playing right now, they've been a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense. The question is, I think the offense will probably remain that way. The question is just, will the defense remain that way?
Yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen. Obviously, the defensive DVOA numbers that they were putting up through the first 4 weeks isn't going to be sustainable. They're not going to be that level of defensive play, but they do have the makings of probably a top at the minimum. It seems like it's going to be a top 10 defense.
Yeah, it's looking very good. Again, probably not going to get 4 turnovers like they did last week, but it should be interesting. Want to move on?
Yeah, we can move on. I will give you. I don't know which one to go with these last 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just do Rams at 5. I have 4. Am I missing
Did
a
I
game?
miss? So I have no particular. Oh, you know what? I wrote the Rams at Giants twice. Yeah, you're right. 4 games.
Okay. Well, I'm giving you that game. I'll give you Rams at Giants.
Okay, so there you. All right, Rams Giants. Interesting. So I have this one a little bit lower. This is almost my last one picked. I'm going to Rams here because the Giants are not good. On top of this, we don't know if Daniel Jones will be healthy or not. It's a question mark. Although, and I think that's a big deal. I think Daniel Jones is at this point, like, he's one of the better things about the Giants offense. I'm interested in the Giants offense. I like what I saw from Kadarius Toney, but the question is just their Giants defense has been a complete mess, and I think that their offense will struggle against a good defense, and I think that their defense will really struggle against a good offense. You kind of have to go with the Rams here.
Yeah, I mean, that's the obvious pick. I do feel like these favorites are very obvious picks from here on out.
Mm-hmm.
From everything I've heard, it seems like Daniel Jones might actually play. So I guess that's a good thing for the Giants that, he'll be back. So that'll add a little more. And, what's the roadmap for the Giants winning this game? Kadarius Toney has another 12 catch, 165-yard touchdown game. Matthew Stafford throws a couple turnovers, and it just comes this weird game.
I mean, yeah, it feels like one of those any given Sunday, anything can happen type games. But it's hard to picture a scenario where after this game we're like, yeah, that they won, and yeah, they played well, good for the Giants. It feels like if they win, it's going to be like, yeah, they won because of these fluky things that went their way, which can happen. It is football.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It can happen. I'm just not. I don't think anyone should bet it that it's going to happen. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Rams are the obvious pick here. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. Also, I thought I had this thought. A Reddit comment said this, and I liked it. Is Mike Glennon the Dalton line of backups?
The Dalton what?
The Dalton line of backup quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, he might be.
Oh, we got an interesting person in the chat. Okay, block that person. Always fun when we have some sort of weird stuff there. Apologies to everyone having to read that. All right, Kyle, sorry, go ahead.
All right. I mean, with that, I think we can move on from this game. You want to move on?
Yeah, kind of a tough one to end that. So I guess we'll move on. Let's go to. I'm going to give you. How about this one? Buccaneers at Eagles, the Thursday night game. One will be tomorrow. Where do you want to go with this?
All right. So I had 2 locks candidates out of these last 3 games. So I can have it set up now that I can either lock this one up, or I can give you the game I didn't have locked up and lock up my other lock. I'm going to give you the other one. I'm going to lock the other one. So I'm going to pick the Bucs, obviously, in this one. They're the way better team. Actually, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to pick the lock for this one. I'm taking the
Okay.
Bucs, and I'm locking up -7. I think they're going to win this game. I just don't see how this Eagles offense is built to attack the Buccaneers defense. I think Jalen Hurts has definitely improved as a passer. I just don't think he has the receivers that I feel like they could really exploit this Tampa secondary that's banged up. And on the other side, I know they had a good week last week, but this secondary is not something that I'm still inspired is going to be great. And I think Tom Brady's going to torch it. So I'm going to take I'm taking the Bucs. I'm locking it up. I think they're going to win by a lot.
Yeah, I think as well. I think this is good. I don't hate this. I actually consider this as well. I guess the flip side is, well, Todd Bowles loves to play man coverage a lot, right? And if he does, can't you see Jalen Hurts running the ball a lot? If you go to zone, I mean, the way I still kind of feel like why I'm hesitant to lock up any team against Tampa Bay is just they have no cornerbacks right now. I mean, Jamel Dean came back, so that's helpful, but they're still hurting in that category, and that's kind of the upside here for Philadelphia.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. And with Levante David being out, that hurts. But I mean,
Hmm.
the good news too is it doesn't seem like Dallas Goedert is going to play with the COVID stuff too. So that might have been his matchup in coverage, so he doesn't have to worry about that. And I just feel like that even with Hurts, isn't isn't Devin White kind of like the best Jalen Hurts negator you could think of?
Interesting. Maybe, yeah. I mean, especially like, well, the issue though is how do you use him now, right? Because typically Levante David is the guy who, okay, if it's cover one man play, Levante David covers the tight end, and you have White kind of be in that middle of the field where he can run over there. So I get that logic, and I do kind of, uh, in a lot of ways agree, but with the Levante David injury, that could hurt things. How do you use them? That's the question.
Yeah, I just feel like I don't know who the backup middle linebacker is that takes that spot.
It'd be, wait, I'm trying to, Minter, is I'm forgetting his first name. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just honestly do the same thing though, because it's like I know that it's a step. You don't love the matchup of Ertz on Minter, but at the same time, I think you live with that and just say, well, Devin White's going to take out their best offensive player, which is Jalen Hurts, and you definitely want to. If it's easier to take out or at least limit Jalen Hurts' running game with Devin White, I'm definitely doing that over worrying about Zach Ertz.
Yeah, it's Kevin Minter. For what I was about to say, Colton Miller, who's the tackle for the Raiders. I don't know why. Similar names got confused in my head. So yeah, I mean, it's I can see that. Although again, like I still have flashbacks to that Daniel Jones first game. Although again, it's been a minute since that. Maybe I shouldn't still be focused on it. But yeah, I could see it. It's not a horrible lock. It really isn't. I totally understand it. And the other flip side too is, hey, Thursday Night Football, weird stuff happens.
Yeah, that's true. So, I mean, I just feel like the Bucks are a way better team. I feel comfortable with that, and I don't think they're going to do the same things to Tom Brady they did to Sam Darnold. So that
Yeah,
kind of goes without saying.
right. Exactly. All right, let's move on. 2 games left. You give me one, which is also in turn going to give you the last one to pick. Where are you going?
All right, I'll just give you Texans Colts. I think it's the worst favorite of the two, so I'll give you that one.
Okay. I'm going Houston here, of course. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, this is I'm picking the Colts again. Crazy. A 1-4 team is currently a 9.5 point favorite. The Indianapolis Colts are. I do think that again. I looked it up. It seems like Davis Mills will still be playing. Who again seemingly what turned into an elite quarterback against the New England Patriots. But again, a lot of that was like I saw he had like one throw where he just like threw it up to like Chris Moore, who's like caught it and then like ran for like another 50 yards. So it's like kind of like okay, that makes the numbers look a lot better. And again, Davis Mills did look fine though. Like he wasn't like bad or anything. So there's hope there. But again, we kind of saw this in college. There would be the occasional good Davis Mills game followed by like 3 bad ones. Anyways, the Colts are the better team. The Colts are, they showed promise against a good Baltimore Ravens team. They should be able to beat up on a bad Houston Texans team.
This is a must-win game for the Colts. I mean, it seems
Mhm.
ridiculous to say in Week 6, but this team cannot lose to the Texans and go 1-5 if they want to make the playoffs. So they have to win this game. Now, I don't know if I'd like bet Colts -9.5, but I just think they're going to win this game. The one thing I took away too from that Baltimore Ravens game is it's a really good idea if you're your star running back struggling to find some holes and getting some yards is to use them in the passing game and
Mhm.
not use Naheem Hines, who, although I like Hines, is a worse player than Jonathan Taylor. So using Jonathan Taylor in the passing game is a good idea. He had 3 catches. He had the big touchdown play off of it too. It just gives him more space. And if you're going to put a lot of resources into having a guy like that, you don't worry about Naheem Hines touches. You worry about Jonathan Taylor touches, getting him some space to find some breathing room, use him in the passing game, and let him make some plays.
Yeah, I think all of that is all that really good stuff. I guess here's the question: do you like the Colts minus 9.5? Do you like them to cover? Win this game by double digits?
Talent-wise, they should. Based on the season, it's really tough to pick the Colts to beat anybody by 10 points.
Hmm.
Talent-wise, they should, though. I guess I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and for the Texans, what's the hope here? I still don't know. Like, what are we doing with the Houston Texans season? Like, what's the goal here?
I mean, heck, if they have an offensive performance like they did last week, they can win this game. They
Hmm.
just got to put it together for 4 quarters. They looked really good in the first half. Didn't really look that great in the fourth quarter, especially when they were up 22-9. But if Davis Mills continues to look, competent and, have a couple good throws like he did in the game the other day, maybe you can put some things together in this game, and that's what you look towards.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe lose, get a better draft pick.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Final game. Let's talk some balls. It's been too long since I got to say that. Chiefs at balls. Kyle, I was very responsible during my John Gruden video about his firing. I had to mention the Washington football team multiple times, never once called them the balls. Are you proud of me?
I'm very proud.
Hmm.
The Balls aren't winning this game, though. How about this,
No.
though? During our pick'em thing here, we had 2 under 500 teams. Uh, 2 under 500 teams picked as our winners in our last 2 games that we're most confident in. Um,
Hmm.
so I've
Yeah.
had a lot of jokes with the couple of Chiefs fans in my life here. Starting with who knew that the Patriots and Chiefs were on the same caliber this season.
Uh huh.
B, who knew that Patrick Mahomes would be washed up before Tom Brady.
Hmm.
Who knew that Patrick Mahomes was the 3rd best quarterback in his division. There's been plenty of things to take shots at this season, but this is not the game where you're going to want to take shots at the Chiefs. They're not going to lose this game. They're going to dominate the balls. The balls. I have been saying this since week 2. You've been down it with me too. The Balls linebackers may be the worst coverage linebackers in football that I've seen this season.
Hmm.
They're going against Travis Kelce. That
Yeah.
that screams mismatch to me. That screams
Hmm.
that's a bad situation. This is bad. This is very, very bad. I think the Chiefs are going to move out well. I think the offense is going to have 1 billion yards, and I think the Chiefs are going to win this one like 42. They're going to give up a ton of points because that's what they do, but they're going to win this game like 45-28.
Okay. Kyle, I have a strategy. All right.
Yes.
Tell me if you like the strategy. So when the coin toss happens, you're the Washington football team. You select, heads or tails, whatever. If you win the coin toss, you want the ball first. Okay. If hopefully you score right away. Let's say to kick a field goal to go up 3-0. You then commit pass interference on every play. Every play, pass interference. You run out the clock that way. They have to keep accepting the penalty. You can only get halfway. Then at the halftime, the Chiefs will get one shot where you have to let them try to score a touchdown. Hopefully, you stop them. Then do the same thing in the second half. Run out the clock. Just don't have to stop them twice. Can they win that way?
Only have to stop them twice. I like
Hmm.
it. That is a bold strategy, Cotton. So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I don't think that's gonna work. I mean, I would still bet on the Chiefs to score on those 2 plays.
Hmm. Yeah, because the issue also is that with 5 guys just hugging every eligible receiver, you still have to then stop a running play. So that's kind of maybe where the strategy falls apart a little.
Yeah, that's true. Although no Clyde Edwards-Helaire, so maybe you can make
Hmm.
something happen there.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, but yeah, I mean, maybe that's a blessing in disguise for the Chiefs though too, because maybe they'll just start throwing it 1 billion times a game. They already do,
Yeah.
but maybe they'll just throw. Maybe they'll just go full on like Brian Dabble, but just even further. And Patrick Mahomes going to have 65 dropbacks in this game.
Yeah. The flip side is like, hey, could we see like the Washington football team scoring points? I mean, everyone scored points against Kansas City so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to score points. Taylor Heineke is going to, people are going to be saying after this game, oh, should Taylor Heineke be the full time starter?
Uh-huh.
People are going to be saying that after this game, but they're not going to keep up with Kansas City. That's the thing.
Right. That's just kind of the issue here for the Chiefs. I mean, I guess the one way that this could go the opposite way is just if Mahomes turns the ball. Like the problem with Kansas City is they keep turning the ball over, right? Like that's been the biggest issue with them through 5 weeks. Maybe you can just get some of that luck back your way.
I mean, yeah, they would basically have to. They need to get a couple turnovers, and the offense basically has to keep scoring.
Yeah.
That's how the Chiefs have basically lost all of these games. So there's obviously a roadmap for the Washington to win, but I just don't know if the Balls have the people to do it. Like even if like Patrick Mahomes takes a shot downfield, do you trust Landon Collins to be in the right spot to cover like a deep ball that's misthrown to Tyreek Hill? I don't really.
Right. Yeah. It should be tough for the poor balls. That is our that's the end
Story
of
of
it.
my
That is
life. Poor balls.
All right. Well, great ending there. All right. Well, I want to talk about the baseball of it all, the Rays Red Sox a little bit to put we talked about that during this series. So I figure we'll put a pin in that. So if anyone is not into baseball, this is the end of the football portion of the podcast. You can head out now. Kyle, let them know where they can find us if you are one of those people that are tuning out now.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That's at Jackson Kruger on Twitter. I am at by Kyle Grondin on Twitter. And then make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK on Twitter. That's at On the Sideline JK. We'll have any show updates right there in case you need to tune in next week, or if you want to tune in Sunday night at midnight. We'll be recapping all of the games from week 6.
Yes, of course. As always, there's the audio only file if you want to check that out. Actually, I think I guess I forgot to hit publish last because I put it on the Spreaker thing, but I didn't hit publish. So that's why if you were looking for it last week, it wasn't there. So if any problem comes up, feel free to tweet at me again at Jackson Kruger. I'll make sure I fix it there. But yeah, should be up for this one. So hopefully that works out. So yeah, let's talk baseball for a second. Kyle, congratulations to your Boston Red Sox moving on to the ALCS.
Yeah, really crazy series because back-to-back games it looked, we jumped out to an early lead. Everything's looking good. And then our bullpen comes in and makes things interesting. You jump on our bullpen 2 games in a row. This one, you're jumping on Hector Robles. You get after him. You get a couple. Or no, this one was Ryan Brazier. Sorry, the last one was Hector Robles. So Ryan Brazier gives up a couple runs in this game. All of a sudden, it's tied up, and it looked like the Red Sox really blew their chance to close out at home. That being said, once again, we get the stop in the 8th inning. After we get the stop, we get to go to the plate in the 9th, and our offense comes through then.
Yeah, I mean to me, kind of what I want to talk about is the frustration I get when I'm looking through these comments and seeing, analytics lose again of this kind of stuff. It's just so silly of you got to fire Kevin Cash. I just think it's insane, and I think people are learning the wrong lessons for this, especially when Alex Cora, he pulled Erod. He basically made the Blake Snell move. It was Rodriguez was dealing. He takes him out the second he's done through the second time through the order with mid-70s pitches. That's literally what Cash got killed for the Blake Snell decision. Cora does it, and he's awarded as a hero. The same thing with the Shane McClanahan thing, right? Where Cash brings in McClanahan, and everyone says, "What are you doing bringing in a starter out of the bullpen?" That's what we've been praising Cora for all series, is that he's done that. So it's just there's a weird anti-analytic bias in baseball, which I kind of get because baseball, it has kind of ruined the sport. So I get why people are upset about it. But we can acknowledge that no, analytics are very smart and are how you win baseball games, and also it's not as fun to watch because of analytics.
Yeah, no one was saying this when the Rays were making World Series and such. Just because they lose one playoff series, it doesn't mean they're bad. It means that the Red Sox hit the crap out of the baseball, and that's how they won this series. That's really what it came down to. It was Kevin Cash can think of anything he wants analytically. If the Red Sox are going to get a billion hits over 3 games, they're going to win. They're going to win those 3 games, and that's what it came down to. So I don't blame Kevin Cash for it. I think Alex Cora did a really good job managing this series too. Obviously, you could have said, "Oh, why'd you take Erod out there?" But data shows that typically what happens. And Erod's also not a guy who goes deep into games because he struggles to strike guy out. He doesn't have a lot of out pitches, and I think that's a problem for him. So I don't think it was really a surprising call. Obviously, the tough thing with the Red Sox is that you know, it's basically been Garrett Whitlock or bust for a lot of this bullpen. And then once again in this series, it's Garrett Whitlock or bust, or one of these starters like Pavetta coming in and making something happen, or Tanner Huck, who even gave up a run in this game, in game
Mhm.
2 making something happen. So, I mean, obviously winning the series is nice, but the bullpen might be the death of me.
Yeah, it's interesting, and we'll see again. Houston's not going to have the offensive struggle that Tampa Bay did, because that's the other thing
Mhm.
I wanted to bring up. I had some numbers on this of, people keep bringing up, oh, the lack of starting pitching for Tampa Bay. That's what really did them in, and kind of like that hurt. But you look at like what they did. The Rays ended up giving an 6 runs per 9 innings in this series, that sounds like insanely high, but Boston scores 5.616 runs per game. So, and if you take out the Michael Wacha runs later on, they only gave up 4.86 runs per 9 innings in this series, which is under what Boston does. So it's a little bit above average, which isn't great. You want to be well above average, but it's not horrible. Boston just has a really good offense. To me, the clear issue is that outside of Randy and Wander, the Rays only hit 168 and they only slugged 336. Like, that's how you lose, is when you only have 2 players who showed up.
If this series happened in 2005, or these last couple of years happened in like 04, 05,
Hmm.
Brandon Lau would be like considered the worst like postseason baseball player ever. I
Uh-huh.
mean, he has
Yeah.
been. I mean, going back to last year, he's been god awful. He was god awful in this series, and it's
Hmm.
it's just really hard when your number 2 hitter in your lineup is basically an automatic out. Or
Yeah.
was he
No.
number 3? Um,
Uh, he moved around a little bit. Sometimes he led the team in offensive WAR. Goes 0 for 18. Mike Zunino was second in the team in offensive WAR. He goes 2 for 15 with a single and a double. So like that, yeah, it's that kind of stuff. Nelson Cruz only 3 for 17, did hit a home run, but it's like that kind of stuff that you have these guys who are supposed to be these key pieces. Stuff like Brandon Lau is like 13 for like 127 in the playoffs in his career. Like, it's absurdly bad and over a decent sample size.
mhm. Yeah. I mean, if you're a Rays fan, you still feel pretty good about this game, this team. I think McClanahan's a stud. I think Wander Franco looks like a super duper star. Obviously, the big thing with the Rays is how long are those guys there? But
Mhm.
at least for now, those guys look really good, and they're going to be really good again next year. Randy Rosarena, I don't know if he's a star yet, but he's clearly a big time performer because it seems like every postseason he's come up huge.
Mhm.
So it's going to be a good team again. So I'm not really worried about the Rays. Like I said, they just ran into a team that hit the ball really well, and I don't think it had anything to do with the Rays pitching. It's just a team with, you know, 7 or 8. I mean, when Christian Vasquez is playing like he did the last 2 games, this is a lineup that basically has 8 good hitters.
Mhm.
So it's really hard to attack a lineup like that.
Yeah, and they should. I mean, like, Kike Hernandez turns into like the best player in baseball. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
what do you do about that? Like, yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I think the Rays in the future, I think they'll be. I mean, you have like young players like Shane Baz, Luis Patino. These guys can come in. It sucks the Glass now is going to be hurt for all of them. Like, that's just the real thing. It's like a Glass now's injury did screw everything up. But I have confidence moving forward. Definitely was a tough loss, especially when we don't know how many years we have here in the Tampa Bay area. But congratulations to the Red Sox. We'll end with this. How are you feeling going up against Houston?
Uh, we'll see. I think
Hmm.
the good news is I'm not as concerned about this pitching staff. I think we can attack these pitchers.
Hmm.
That being said, like you said, they can attack us too. So I think it's going to be a really fun series, and I think Houston's a good team. Um, but the way we're playing baseball, I think we can beat anybody.
Yeah, it's baseball. That's the craziness. And I tell you, maybe no other place I'd want to have to pitch as an away player than Fenway. I think that just seems like complete hell.
It is, and then Houston's not a very friendly ballpark either, so that's got to be fun. I think the key for the Red Sox is Garrett Whitlock should just plan on pitching from the 5th inning to the 9th inning of the next 7 games.
Okay, interesting strategy. We'll see how that is. He like that strategy better or worse than my pass interference every play strategy?
Oh, definitely worse. He's going to get killed. But uh,
Okay.
you know, I mean, he's been amazing. I mean, he was
Mhm.
basically the signing of the offseason, and
No,
we
and he
got him.
saved the day in that
Yep.
game, right? He comes in with Randy on second, no outs, and gets out of the inning.
hmm Yeah, I mean, he was sensational. We basically got him in that weird contract rule with the Yankees. I forgot what it's called too. That they basically didn't protect him, and we got him for basically nothing. And he's been
Mhm.
our best bullpen arm. So it's a very weird situation. But I still think that this is a very good offense. Like I said, it can beat everybody. We kind of look like how we did in the first half of the year. We were one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Probably not going to watch much. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
I
It's
need a
always
I need a series off. That's always how I am. Give me a series off. I'll watch. If there's like a game seven, I'll watch. Then I'll watch the World Series.
Yeah, I used to get it's embarrassing how I'm still
Hmm.
26 and care this much.
Uh huh.
Like the last Stanley Cup playoffs, I get really into, hockey sometimes. And
Hmm.
like when the Bruins lose, I get so devastated I can't even look at hockey stuff for like months.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
this is
hockey's
gonna
the worst. I don't know why,
yeah,
but hockey's just the worst.
it's so gut wrenching when you lose a
Hmm.
hockey game. And this is gonna be the same thing with this Red Sox team. If this team lose, I'm probably not gonna watch anything of the World Series.
Hmm. Right, which is weird too, because if the Red Sox got swept, you'd be like, it is what it is. Like you would have understood, but it's just like now that there's like hope, it almost makes it worse.
Yeah, I mean, we beat both of our AL East teams, so it's like
Hmm.
we should win this one too. But I mean, who knows?
Yeah, should be interesting. It seems like your feed is cutting out a little bit, but maybe a perfect time to end this. Kyle, can you hear me at all?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can
Okay,
you
you're
hear
back.
me?
Yeah, you were frozen for a second. We'll just end it
Oh,
now. Any final thoughts before we head out?
looking forward to Week 6. Looking forward to the Red Sox. Got some WNBA finals on right here, so things are going well. A lot of sports going on.
All right. Yes, it should be fun. Thank you to everyone for watching or listening. We appreciate it. And until next time, have a good one.
Peace.